Okay. Admit all. Misaki Shikara. Depo nak masuk. Hah? Oh ya. Okay, 53. Give me a second. Join. Meet all. Good morning, people. Very good morning to all of you. As we are now on week 9. Welcome to week 9 of intercultural communication. Today, with full of grateful in my life. I have my good friend, my long lost friend, my best friend since
20 years ago.
Elementary school. Mr. Aishah Shikara Shahrin. She is an elementary international school teacher from currently attached to Asmara International School, but she's now right here in Malaysia. She has finished a stint in Asmara, I believe, and approaching to another international school as she's finding another place to teach, and her service would be really, really great with education, things like that. Okay, give me a second, everybody. There's a lot of people joining. Miss Shikara, give me a second.
No problem. Thank you for the introduction.
Mana I punya video. Okay. Admit all. Okay, this is better. Okay. Give me a second, Shikara. Give me a second. Almost everybody is coming in. Give me 2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes.
I actually wanted to work all night to do my visual comp, but then I fell asleep accidentally at 4 o'clock.
At 4
It was supposed to be like a break that I can take a break and then I can.
Who's that? Is that Pavitra?
Oh yeah, I didn't realize my mic was on. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
It's okay. I also fell asleep at 4 and woke up. So we're running on the same amount of sleeping hours.
Okay.
Good morning, Miss. Hope you're having a good day.
Oh my God. Is that a robotic way of a good morning? Okay, good. Okay. Good morning. Okay, good job, Shikara. Okay.
I didn't know Zoom could do that. You could actually change your audio?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, you can't. I have software that can help me do that.
Oh, okay. So I've already met the class joker.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, there are 67 of us. Okay. Throughout time, I will admit most of us in from time to time. They're gonna be late, just like it's a physical class. It's like opening the door and closing in, opening the door and closing in as well. Okay. Hi everybody. Good morning. I'm gonna introduce. I'm gonna start our class for today. Welcome to week 9 of intercultural communication. And this week we are covering the topic of understanding intercultural transition. With that, we have an honorable speaker with us, which is Miss Nur Aishah Shikara Shahrin. She is an elementary international school teacher. She has worked in various schools. She has a lot of experience in education itself. She was currently attached to Asmara International School. Anybody knows where Asmara is? Good question.
Ooh, that's a good one. I wonder if anyone will know.
Where is Asmara, people?
I don't know.
Sorry? Anybody? Anybody can
No.
share your thoughts where
It's a hard
Asmara
one.
is? Okay.
We can give them a clue.
Okay.
It's in Africa.
It's in Africa. It's in Africa. It's in Eritrea. Okay, so Shikara has a lot of experience in education. She's a teacher herself. I and Shikara go way back since elementary school, since elementary days, where I know her all my life. And with that, why did I invite her today? Because as we are talking about understanding intercultural transition, Miss Shikara herself is so well experienced, so well versed in understanding and adapting herself in various environments. She moved to a lot of various countries throughout her life because of her dad's position. Her dad is working in an oil and gas company, so that's why she moves a lot, and she goes to she moves to one country and another, and with that she's going to share her experience with us, how to adapt with other cultures. And to share with you, she is a Malay girl. She is a Malaysian, and she has friends all around the world, and she has been adapting with so many cultural groups. And with that, I invite Miss Nur Aishah Shikara Shahrin for today.
Yay, what an introduction. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here because Hannes, what do you call you, Dr. Hannes or Professor? Congratulations.
Oh, no, they call me Miss
PhD, by the way.
Hannes. They call me Miss
Okay,
Hannes.
wonderful. Well, Ms. Hannes and I have been friends, as she said, for 20 years. We actually were in elementary school together, Jatiga. So that was actually right before I started moving around the world. So what I'm going to do today actually is I'm going to share my screen for a PowerPoint that I actually made. So let me just do that real quick.
Okay, cool.
Tested it out just now, so it should be able to work. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
So just let me know, Miss Hannes. This is you can see us, right?
Yeah,
you can see me.
I can
I
see
mean, you
it.
can see the
Everybody
screen.
else, can you see Miss Shikara's screen? Yes, they can see you. Everybody?
Wonderful.
Yup.
Okay, sounds good. Okay,
good.
so Miss Hannes wanted me to talk about the class that you guys are taking, which is intercultural communications. So that's a heavy topic in itself. So let's start. Okay, so today what we're going to do is some of the talking points is going to be kind of like question and answer style. So it's kind of going to be like more of like an interview or a call and response. So if any of you guys have any questions, you can put it in the comment box, and Ms. Hannes can read them out while I go through the slides, because I can't see the comments while I'm going through the PowerPoint. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit of introduction about myself, so my personal background, and also my professional background, so what I've done professionally as an educator. And we're going to connect it to the topic today, which was intercultural transitions. So kind of talking about how do you adapt culturally in your personal life and also your workplace. So I'm hoping today, my goal today is to hopefully inspire you, or to at least give you kind of a background on what it's like to be in situations where you have to adapt, right? I mean, as Malaysians, well, if you are Malaysian or if you are foreign students, we have to do it on a daily basis. So okay, so introduction. Ms. Hannes, can you see that map on the screen?
Yeah, yeah, I can see. Everybody can see the map on the screen? Yup, they can see it.
Awesome. Okay, so take a look at this wonderful, beautiful world map. The orange dots are the countries that I lived in growing up from age 3 to age 20. Either I lived or I studied there, as if actually pretty much I moved to all these countries. The purple dots are pretty much the countries that I've visited or traveled to for work or for leisure. And basically the reason, I think I calculated the other day, I've pretty much been or visited or lived in at least 40 countries so far. And the reason is because my father was in the oil and gas industry. So if some of you have relatives who are electrical engineers or petroleum engineers, you know, the industry is oil and gas, and it's a very lucrative industry, and you make a lot of money from it. So I grew up having a dad who constantly moved around the world. We actually moved every 2 years. And my mother was a teacher, so she actually taught biology, high school biology, which I'm really surprised. And then when she quit her job, when she met my dad, and actually ended up getting back into education, teaching younger children. So I kind of followed in her footsteps. If you take a look at all this, so yeah, I graduated from a high school in South Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa, called the American International School of Cape Town, and I went to university in Honolulu, Hawaii, and that was really fun. You guys are probably thinking, "Wow, Hawaii!" Yeah, it was. Yeah, I pretty much went to school in a bikini and went surfing right after class, so that was the best. It was the best life ever, and my dad said it was at his expense. So, so yeah, I graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and actually got to work for Barack Obama's sister at one point, which is pretty cool. And then I went into the field of education. So the stars that you see on the map are all the countries that I've taught in so far. So that actually includes the US, South Africa. Oh, I forgot to put a star here. Libya, Eritrea, Malaysia, and now my next position is actually going to be in Myanmar. So Ms. Hannes, please feel free to chime in if you have any questions while I go through the slides.
Okay.
Okay.
Before you go
yeah.
to another part, Ms. Shikara, how do you feel in, you know, moving one place to another, you know, as a kid, you know, does that like actually bother you, or is it, I don't know, how was it for you?
Oh, that's a really good question. So a lot of people, you know, would say, "Wow, you're really lucky to have lived in all these places."
Yeah.
There's just like everything else in life, there's pros and cons. You know, one of the pros was actually I got to reinvent my identity every time I moved. So if I was being an asshole am I allowed to swear in this class? I don't know if I'm.
Okay, sure, go.
So if I was acting like an asshole in one country, I knew I was going to move in the next year. So I could reinvent myself. So it's more of like a trial and error kind of thing. And that was a really positive thing for me, because learning to reinvent yourself or learning to act in a certain way helps you understand your identity, and even helps you understand other people as well. So I think one of the benefits of moving around was that. And also obviously, you know, the immense cultures that you're exposed to. The difficult part, I mean, if I was in a family of 6, which I am, so I have 3 sisters. I think if I was a family of probably just one person, I think it would be a lot different. But because I had a strong family unit, that really helped us adapt to the cultural that we were in, that we moved to.
Good. All right. Moving on, Ms. Shikara.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so intercultural transitions. Actually, I had to Google this I had to Google this definition.
Okay.
So I Googled it, and it was defined as alterations that occur in individuals in their environment as a consequence of contact between cultures. What I like to do as an educator, because I teach young children, I like to match a definition with a photo. So I thought, I don't know, Miss Hannes, if you think this photo was quite appropriate, but I think it actually quite defines the definition.
Yeah.
And you know, as we talk about intercultural transitions and how you alter or you change yourself when you're communicating every single day,
Yeah.
it's pretty much based on the things that you see on the left side. So, you know, your race and your ethnicity plays a huge role in how you see the world, the cultures you're exposed to, your religion, the countries you visited, the languages that you speak, and the food that you eat, the clothing that you wear, etc. So this is what intercultural transitions are. We're doing it constantly. So you know, we're lucky to be in a country such as Malaysia, where we're constantly transitioning. You know, it's called code switching, right? If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hannes.
Yes, correct.
When you're constantly switching codes between, you know, speaking Mandarin and speaking Tamil, or you know, living in harmony with your friends. So okay, so when I wanted to look at intercultural adaptations in my own personal context. So what I did was I defined it for myself. And I thought, okay, these changes usually occur when an individual is faced with external and internal conflict. So from my experience of living in these 8-10 countries and attending 14 different schools, and you know, and going to travel to all these countries, what I realized that these conflicts were probably because of the reasons below. So as a kid, I was probably trying to fit into a situation, or I was trying to understand somebody, or I was trying to communicate effectively. Sometimes I was trying to avoid danger. So that's one of the situations where I found myself adaptation. Sorry?
Sorry?
Oh, I think somebody is forgot to.
Sorry.
的没有理由是会大过6年，
Shut up 啦！
有可能大过6年的嘛？
Who's that? Who's that? So sorry. Can you mute your mic for a bit while Miss Shikara explains? Okay. We're good. Okay, please continue, Shikara. All right.
我叫阿狗叫我，他顾着玩电话，不要管我。
Give me a second,
No,
Shikara.
Maybe you have to mute her yourself.
X 这个它可以借的钱就是 X， 它只可以从1000到2这样子，所以就是他借的钱只可以多过1000跟少过2万。
然后就是要3个啊。
I can't identify who is speaking.
It's Z. I don't know how to say. Sorry, guys, if I murder her name. Z Kilo. Sorry, I'm so bad at names.
Cindy, can you ask her to mute, please? Zechi! Yeah. Okay, Zechi. Okay. Okay. Everybody, please try and kindly to mute your mic. If you have questions, pop in the chat box, and I'll be asking it to Miss Shikara. Okay. Okay, Shikara,
Yes.
please.
Yep. Yes,
continue.
please. Yeah. So please feel free to even unmute yourself and ask questions. Okay, anyways, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have been in a situation, and I think on Zoom you can do a raise your hand, right? So
Yeah.
like raise your hand if you've been in a situation where you were trying to fit in and you changed yourself to fit in, or you know, you've changed yourself to try to understand somebody else, or you've even changed yourself to avoid danger. I know as a woman, sometimes, you know, like I think I saw this on TikTok the other day where there's this one video of a woman in an elevator, and I think the audio was like, wait till I gotta make sure if I have my gun in my handbag, I gotta make sure I have my gun in my handbag. So I mean, like we code switch or we act a certain way when we're trying to avoid danger as well, right? So
That's right.
so you know, especially if you're in the African community. I mean, I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but okay, yeah, I take that back. In a Malaysian community, you can also be kidnapped and or mugged. So that's true. It can happen anywhere. It can happen in New York. It can happen. Okay. Anyways, back to the point. So as I usually say, I like to connect a photo to a definition because that's how I remember things. So I thought this photo was actually extremely beautiful. It was drawn by an artist called Song Chen for the China Daily newspaper. Wow. And this is a perfect example of intercultural adaptations. If you notice what's happening on the clothing of the people. Actually, I would like to ask you guys, but if you have chime in whenever. But what do you notice about that picture? What's the underlying theme? Ms. Hannes, what do you think?
What's the it is unity, where everybody has though they come from different cultural groups, they try to find some common ground to unite. I would say that.
Yes, exactly. And do you notice that actually the common thing in the photo are flowers?
Yeah.
So if you notice, every person in that picture is actually representing a flower in another way, like they're wearing it or they're holding it. And in fact, the flowers that they are wearing on their clothes represent probably where they're even from, right? So like this whole concept about your different flowers but all in the same garden is pretty much called intercultural adaptations in itself.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just go on to the last slide. So this is pretty much where I want you guys to chime in. As again, like I said, my intention for today, for all 89 participants in this Zoom lesson, is for you guys to get ask me, try to ask me as many questions as you can. So from my experience, I'm just going to throw out some of the things that I've experienced, and then you guys can ask questions from there, and Ms. Hannes can also guide the discussion. We can talk about post-apartheid South Africa. Especially right now, we're in this new Black Lives Matter movement, and there's a lot of conversation about race in Malaysia in itself. I've lived in a South Africa that has been free from apartheid. So having experienced that as a teenager was really important for me to understand race for myself. I can also talk about workplace discrimination. So where I have been discriminated as an individual, as a woman, as a person of color, what can happen to you in a workplace, and how can you code switch, or how can you culturally adapt to a situation to work in your favor. I can also talk about empowerment. So some of the situations in my life where I felt like I've been empowered or someone has helped me become empowered. Can also talk about dictatorial regimes. So if you guys if you guys remember the picture that of the map, I have lived in some really crazy places. So I've lived in Saudi Arabia, I've lived in Libya, I currently live in the North Korea of Africa called Eritrea. I've lived in some really interesting places that have some crazy ways of running a country. So if you have any questions about that, that would be great. I've also experienced racism in a lot of Western countries. So, I put there the US, Canada, Australia, Germany. So if you want to ask about, how does your race play a card or a role in where you choose to go to study or where you choose to travel, that's a really important question. And the last one I want to talk to you about, since I'm now based in Africa and I've lived in 8 African countries right now so far. The Africa-Asia nexus. So actually I just realized that I just discovered the word nexus. Nexus actually means communication. So if you have any questions about the Asia-Africa connection right now, because what we see today happening is a lot of international students coming from Africa, who actually from all over the world, especially also Central Asia, who are coming to study here in Malaysia because of the wonderful opportunities that Malaysia have. So those are all questions that I can answer and that you guys can ask. And again, we're not let's not be afraid to have controversial or like uncomfortable conversations, because this is what college is about. It's about asking these questions and trying to find an understanding. So okay, Miss Hannes, I leave it. I send it to you. Should I keep this PowerPoint on the screen?
Yeah, keep it on. Keep it on.
Okay, sure.
Okay, any questions? Thank you so much, Miss Shikara. Any questions to us, Miss Aishah Shikara? As she has been all around the world. She's practically a third kid culture, whereby she immerse herself in various cultures, and she's been there, done that. She can say, I've been there and done that, in terms of adapting to different cultural situations as well. So that is something to be admired. Not many of us have the opportunity to go around the world, and see that, but Miss Shikara is. So questions for Miss Shikara? Any questions, people? I invite questions. You can unmute your mic and ask Miss Shikara directly. Anybody?
Morning, Miss.
Morning. Who's that?
Michelle here.
Michelle. Okay, you can ask away to Miss Shikara. Michelle?
And then you are in an environment. How do you face that situation?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to my map. So I think that map one is a good one to put up there. Okay, so your question was, have I been in a situation where people have boycotted me? Okay, I'm just thinking as a kid. As a child or as a kid between the ages of, I don't know, 3 to 18, there was never a situation where I felt like I was left out. And I think it mostly had to do with the schools that I attended. I attended like international schools. But I also did attend local schools in those countries. Like, for example, I attended a local school in Canada. So, when you go to America and Canada, it's like you're put in a situation where it's just like the West, right? It was more, I think, because I was able to adapt so fast. It was never a situation where I felt like I was being left out for who I was or how I looked or anything like that. I think though, from a professional perspective, actually, you know what? There was a time that I didn't get boycotted. I don't want to use boycott. I think maybe what would be another word, Miss Hannes, instead of boycott would you use? Like,
they
not maybe
isolate you. They put
isolated?
you in. Yeah, isolate.
Okay, so yeah, so Miss Hannes knows
Outcast,
this, but
outcast.
outcasted. Okay, sorry, going back to your question. So at one point I decided to experiment with wearing a tudong or a hijab. So I decided to put on a hijab and work in a professional setting to see how people would react or underestimate me, because I'm very good at my job. So I realized that I faced a lot of isolation when people were able to identify that I was a Muslim. That was really difficult for me, because they would always underestimate my abilities. And so I found myself in a situation, and this actually surprisingly happened in Malaysia as well, where I was the only person of a Malay person or Malaysian person doing the same job as everybody else who was British or American. So it was obvious. I stood out like a sore thumb. And for me, that was more of an empowering situation, because even though I was isolated, I was able to stand in my truth and my power and be really good at my job and say, hey, look, like to the students, I'm just equally as good as all these other of my white counterparts and still do my job really well. So I don't know if that answers your question. So that's probably the only time that I felt like I was left out. I've been in job interviews where people have actually this was also in Malaysia, surprisingly by a Malaysian woman who asked me if you want to work at this international school, what do I have to tell the board about your tudong or your hijab? And for me, that was really shocking because, you know, why was it that wearing a hijab would dictate how good I was at my job? So again, that was another situation in an interview where I felt like I was being discriminated against or left out or isolated. I hope that answers your question.
Does that answer your question, Michelle?
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
it does. Thank you.
Nice. Mingza, if you can mute your mic, that'd be great. If you have questions, you can unmute your mic. Okay. Any other people? Questions for Miss Shikara? Questions?
Hi, Miss. Hi, Miss. What is like
Hi.
one of the work? What is the one of the workplace? Actually, I forgot the word. Workplace discrimination you've actually like received, like from where and like how?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just going back to what Michelle was asking me. So if I could list them. Okay, so in Malaysia, I got, surprisingly, right? So this is why we have to address racism in Malaysia. It's a huge topic. In Malaysia, I went to 2 job interviews where I was discriminated against. The 3 males who were interviewing me actually fell asleep during my interview. I was actually extremely I was so offended. They fell asleep in my interview, so I was like, I'm not gonna name the school, but just don't send your kids to local school. Send your kids to schools in Subang Jaya. Haha, kidding. So they fell asleep. That was one. Another one, as I had mentioned to Michelle, was when the director had asked me, basically told me I can't hire you if you're gonna wear a hijab, because I want to promote white people and stuff, and I don't want to have like a person of a tudong or person of color in my staff. So that was another workplace discrimination that happened to me. Another workplace discrimination that happened to me was when I was working currently in Eritrea, where sometimes my personal views about culture was, I guess, I don't know how to explain, but you know, sometimes when you have a culture clash, and some people don't see it the way that you do, it's really hard for that person to not try to discriminate you. So sometimes they say something like in a staff meeting, and yeah, I don't know if that example, but basically the third time that I've been discriminated against was in a staff meeting where I wanted to bring up learning in Ramadan and for students who were fasting. And that was actually really met with a lot of insensitivity, where somebody would tell me like, oh, the students shouldn't just fast. They shouldn't be fasting anyway. Or, you know, like, that was a situation. Whoa. Okay, so yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Sujay, yep. Sujay asked that. Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
I did.
All right. Does that answer your question, Sujay?
You can keep
Yes, yes,
asking.
it did.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
All right. Another question from Cindy, Ms. Shikara. How long does it roughly take for you to settle down when you move to a new country or a new
Oh, that's a great question. It actually depends on your environment. So if you're living in actually also in your character. So I'm a very adaptable person. I love making new friends. I'm very sociable. I'm an extrovert. So like on my first day, I'm already out there getting to know my neighbors, you know, going to the basketball court to get to know new people, you know, attending my classes, you know. So I think the fast, like, you can get to know a place in a new place in a month, I would say. You know, and like it takes a long time to establish yourself. I would actually say if you guys are trying to migrate or like go for a study abroad, 4 months is enough for you to experience a lot. But if you want to like really understand a place, it takes about 3 or 4 years to really understand or be part of a community. So
Agree.
I would say that, yeah. So the fastest it took me was a month to get to know the whole city and to get to have friends and to go out. So yeah, it's all about how much effort you take, right? So if you're sitting at home and not doing anything, then
Yeah.
you're not going to make as many friends or know as many people.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Okay. Okay. Another question from Cindy as well. Because she's biased to this country and nation. How was Canada in your opinion?
Ooh, Canada is a wonderful country. Sorry, I'm just going to this other slide so that you guys can have other questions. Canada was amazing. I would say that it's actually the least racist country in the world. They have really educated their people. They are a country filled with immigrants. They have really educated their people in terms of not being prejudiced or not discriminating. So you see a lot of the times that you have ministers in the government that are of different races. The food is so accessible there. The only state in Canada that I would say would be a little bit racist would actually be Montreal. So for any of you who know, Montreal is actually the French speaking part of Canada, which was occupied by the French. So it still remains very French in terms of culture. And there is where you see a lot of French-speaking countries. So people from Morocco and people who speak other French languages will move to Montreal. So there you see sometimes there is discrimination against you. But other than that, yeah, no, Canada is great. Everyone should visit Canada at one point. It's just really, really cold. So if you guys like the snow, go ahead. But again, you should visit Canada in the summertime. So
nicely said. Okay, Miss Shikara, another question. Oh, you invite so many questions, which is good. Okay,
yay.
So we have from Sophia. Okay, hello, Miss. When you're in the new country, how do you communicate with the locals? Do you
oh wow,
communicate?
that's amazing.
Do you communicate in English, learn the language, or have a translator?
Oh, all of them. So I do all three. So for example, like when you're in Saudi, like when I was living in Saudi Arabia, people, or like in countries where people refuse to speak another language. So for some of you, maybe some of you have been to Japan. Japan is a country where they refuse to speak English. France is a country where they refuse to speak English. There are a few countries in the world where they just refuse because they're so proud of their language. So when you're in that situation, lucky for me, I speak French. And I think for you guys, I mean, most of us who are Malaysian, we already speak, or we're already bilingual or trilingual just by nature. But if you guys were to pick up a language, I would highly suggest you pick up a language that is rooted in Latin, right? So a French, Italian, or Spanish can open up opportunities for you. So going back to your question, if I, like right now, I'm living in Eritrea. If I were to go to the marketplace, I would bring my driver with me. So my driver would help bargain for me. But if I'm with my colleagues at school, I try to pick up the local language so that I could connect to them on a level. So for example, there's a saying, in Malay we say makan makan, come let's eat. In Eritrea they say nokadam bolu, and it means like jom makan, let's come and eat. So I learned that word specifically. So in the staff room when I'm having lunch with my colleagues, I can say that to them, and they will be really surprised, and they will be like, "Oh my gosh, wow! Like you shown me respect that you can learn my culture." So yeah, so that's times where I feel like language is important. So I think the message from that is always take the time to learn a little bit, or because that's going to open windows or opportunities for you where people will actually learn to respect you because you're taking the effort to respect their culture, their language, right? So I hope that answers your question.
The effort that counts. Nice.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
hopefully that answers your question. Sophia, I think Ms. Shikara has nicely put for you that kind of context. That goes back to our topic, language and intercultural communication, where language plays an important part in conveying a message from one culture to another, to actually be careful of the words that we choose when we are experiencing, or we are within different cultural groups. That's very, very important. Okay, question from Sandra. Were there any pleasant surprises where you thought you would be discriminated against but weren't?
Yes, actually. Again, this is so funny. Every time you guys ask me about like a question when it came to like discrimination, it's always been in Malaysia. So that actually shows. That's really sad. That's actually really sad. But
Malaysia,
it's
truly Asia.
so I worked at ISCAL. I don't know if you guys know that school, but it's pretty much the best school, international school in Malaysia. It's called ISCAL. It's based in Ampang.
Yep.
And when I went for the interview, it was an American guy. And so he had asked me, he basically hired me on the spot because he was so impressed. And mind you, this was after 2 other people had discriminated me, right? So one interview, the people literally slept on me. And then the other interview, she questioned my dressing. So by that time, I was like, I had really low confidence. And so anyways, I attended the interview anyway, and the guy hired me on the spot. And I was so shocked. And I said to him, I'm like, his name was Bob. So I was like, Bob, you're not going to say anything about my hijab? And he said, no, we have people that work here that wear hijab. That has never been an issue. So that was when I realized it's actually the state of mind that you as a leader choose to develop in your community, right? So if you're racist, like I like to say the saying, the fish rots at the head, right? And then the rest of the fish will rot. So if you're on the top and you're promoting diversity, then people are going to be diverse. So I think that was for me where I was very, very shocked and surprised. So there are good people in the world.
Right.
I have another question.
Wait,
Go
Sujay.
ahead.
So, Sujay, can you type in the chat box? Can I read other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Shikara, for answering Sandra's question. Another question would be from YJ. When you were discriminated against, what did you do? Oh, okay. I think Ms. Shikara has answered the question on discrimination, but she makes sure.
Oh, but can I add to that real quick? So in South Africa, there were 2 incidents where I was in a white community or a white neighborhood. So I lived in my first year in South Africa, I lived in a really big house in a white neighborhood. And then I moved in my second year to a brown community in a mid what do you call it, like middle class neighborhood. So when I was in the white neighborhood, I had to go to the hospital, and I had a surgery, and can you please help me? And the nurse actually said to me, do it yourself. So when that happened, my father and I actually wrote a letter to the hospital pointing out racism, because in South Africa, if you ever even mention racism, it's almost like taboo, because you just survived apartheid. So it's like, no, it's not even a question. So this woman actually had to apologize to me, and they sent her to training so that she could learn how to be more sensitive. So like sometimes when things happen to you, like my colleagues one time, I told this story where I was also racially, the doctor was white, and he said to me in the what do you call it, in the clinic, he said to me, you are such a stupid girl. And I was so shocked. So I went back to my work, and I said, did you know that this happened to me? And my colleagues were like, I was like, he's racist. And then they said to me, how was he racist? So sometimes, like, people who are not of color, right, don't understand context of racism.
Yeah.
So it's really important to educate them, right? So at that moment, I wasn't ready to talk to my colleagues because I just couldn't understand how they couldn't understand what had happened. I'm like, if I was a white person, that wouldn't happen. So I think when you are faced with something, you can stand up, and you don't, if you're the type of person who doesn't like confrontation or conflict, you can always stand up for yourself by writing a report, or expressing it or sharing it with somebody else, because you always need an outlet to have a conversation so that you understand it better. I hope, that adds to what we're talking about, right, Miss Hannes?
Yeah, that's right. All right, nicely put. Which country, next question, which country have given you the best experience, would you say? Choose one.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I love all the places that I traveled.
Choose one,
okay,
quickly.
I have to go to the map. Okay, to be honest, if any of you guys were to travel around the world, you have to go to South Africa. Cape Town, South Africa is the most beautiful, amazing city in the world. The second most amazing, beautiful country is actually Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Oh my gosh, like, those are the two, definitely. So I like those cities are amazing. And then okay, you already told me I could only choose one.
Okay,
so.
I want to quick. I want to intercept Miss Shikara for a bit. You know why is that people that she can't adapt, because mainly because how I would say how she doesn't look. She looks a mixed culture. Would you say so, people? She looks like a mix of culture of a little bit Indian right there, which she is, a little bit Thai right there. So for people to adapt to it so easy. So I would say that plays another role in her life. Oh, would you agree on that?
That is actually really interesting. I don't know, some of you have probably listened to this, heard this term called pretty, what's it called, pretty privilege. And I know it's it's so, it hurts to, because I mean, I don't look like Beyonce, but you know what I mean. But like, for me, I've been fortunate to look the way that I do. And I mean, there are research to say that if you're more attractive, or you're better looking, you have a higher chance of succeeding in certain aspects in life. So again, like, that's for, this is, I know it hurts to say.
Insulting for people like me.
No, but oh my gosh, Miss Hannes, you are beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. So that's why, for me, like, the most important thing that I do is, like, if you understand that you have this power, you need to learn how to channel it in different ways. So I think the biggest thing for me is, like, I teach my students, my kids, to understand that beauty comes from within, right? Like, it makes you more beautiful when you're a beautiful person from the inside. And I mean, I've met people who are so beautiful in the inside that it just makes me love them even more. So I mean, we don't, I like, it's hard to, like, talk about, because like, we live in such a superficial culture, so or society in general.
Yeah, I would say everybody has their beauty and their own niche of characteristic that should come out from one time to another. It will come out, people, whereby people where I would say you will, how would I say it? You will succeed in life, not just because of your looks, because of your hard work, and the beauty within you. Would you agree?
Oh, I mean, guys, look at the drama that went down last week with that Malaysian Miss Universe. Come on, like, she is a perfect example of beauty without brains. So and now her personality has really shown. So if you guys are following her, you better stop following her.
Stop following her. Beauty will fade away, but
exactly.
your uniqueness, your characteristics, your heart will always stay with you. So that is
it's so
most important.
cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Do you
Okay,
have
and
any more?
next
I know I'm
question.
getting ahead of time.
This is from Ian. Having migrated countlessly, how do you identify yourself? Are you an embodiment of a cultural melting pot?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. If you have heard of the term that Miss Hannah said, third cultured kid. A third cultured kid is a kid who identifies with multiple cultures or identities that has merged who that person is. So I'm a new breed of people, and the best part about it is that more people are starting to become third cultured, but you can't confuse it with immigrating, right? So when you immigrate, so if you're immigrating to another country, let's say Australia or Canada, you're not a third cultured kid. A third cultured kid is somebody that's been to more than one or two places and lived in those places and like adapted and grew into that culture. So there's a difference. So yeah, I consider myself a global person of the world. Yes, definitely. And I would love to continue to spread, the importance of global culture, right? So
all right. Another question from Sue J. Have you been to a country where you feared for your life?
Yes, so
life
yes, I
due
have.
to being
Sorry, go
different.
ahead.
Yeah.
Due to being different? Due to being different, other than when I was wearing a hijab, I was the idiot that decided to go to Germany and in a hijab. So that was interesting because that was like right after the Syrian refugee situation, and then the crime rates were going up, and then there was obviously the whole thing with ISIS. So that was honestly the scariest thing, to travel in a hijab in Europe. Oh my gosh, that was like so scary. It was even scarier than traveling to America in a hijab. And it's a struggle. Let me tell you, man. Like, respect to the people who continue to wear it, because it is a struggle. I also feared for my life one time when I was in South Africa. Surprisingly, everyone thought I was gonna get like something happened to me in Brazil, but nothing. Thank God, nothing happened to me. But okay, South Africa, I was walking on the street, and this man was following me, and like, I swear to God, I knew that he was going to, like, I felt like I was going to get raped and then thrown into the bridge. Like, that's what my idea was as a woman. Like, again, I'm speaking from a context of a woman of color, so I hope that I can relate to some of you guys. But yeah, I just, this person was following me, and then I just remember at the time, like, putting all the stuff in my handbag in my bra, because I was like, if he's gonna mug me, I'll just give him my handbag and run away. Like, that was what I was thinking. He was getting closer and closer to me, and it was the scariest thing in my life. And then literally somebody saved me. So there was a woman in a car who saw this man following me, and she drove faster. She drove to me, and she said, "Get in the car right now." So I got into the car, because I was like, okay, what's the worst danger? I'd rather get into the car than be in the situation where I am. So yeah, and then when I got into the car, she drove off. She said, "Oh my gosh, that man looked like he was going to attack you." So that was like the scariest thing that's ever happened. Other than that, I've been really grateful to be in a safe situation. So like, yeah.
All right.
But you have to be careful. Like, I felt danger when I was in India. I felt danger when I was in Mexico. I think danger is interesting. Danger is an interesting concept, right? Like, I feel danger when I'm in Malaysia every day. So
Okay, that's another difference.
I wish I could run. Like, I live in Subang, and I wish I could do my runs, but you can't run in Subang. Like, it's scary. So, you know what I mean? So yeah.
That's right. Okay, another question. Do you have a mixed accent when you're speaking a particular language, and do you constantly change the way you talk to adapt the environment?
Yes, I do. I code switch all the time. Yes, I code switch. So when I'm talking Manglish, I'll talk in Malay and English. When I'm with my French friends, I try to speak French. Unfortunately, I adopted a American accent. I'm not proud of it. Like, I had an Australian accent at one point, and then I had an identity crisis when I claimed that I was South African, because like being South African was so much cooler.
Riots are crazy.
Joyita, man, you just got called out, girl. You be watching movies during a lecture.
No.
Damn, the disrespect. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Not gonna lie, I
joking,
do it all the
joking.
time.
Joking, Joita.
Oh,
Okay.
stop.
How would you say that okay, would you say that Asian especially Malaysians are so adaptive towards towards the places that we go to? So for example, if a Malay person goes to Indonesia, immediately the slang will change. How would you, what's your take on that? Is it am I freezing? Am I freezing? Okay.
Okay, can you just repeat that one more time because I think we got cut off for a minute.
Okay. Would you say Malaysians have?
Again.
What's
Oh no.
happening?
Oh well.
What's happening?
Time for
Oh,
my civic. No, no, mind.
okay. What is happening? Okay. Okay. Am I in? Okay. Okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Zoom or any other platforms hate me. Just for your information, Shikara. Whenever I talk so long or have a video lecture, they will freeze me and then they will mute me at one point because they hate my voice apparently.
Okay.
Okay, but a question to you. Would you say Malaysians or Asians are so adaptive that whenever they go, they'll adjust to the environment that they are in? So for example, if a Malaysian goes to Indonesia, goes to Jakarta to shop, okay, immediately their Malay slang will change to an Indonesian slang. What's your take on that? What's your take on that? Shikara.
Frozen. So, okay, so wrapping up, I wanted to point out two things about being, one is about being Malaysian, so I had to write it down before we forgot.
Okay.
Okay, so, yes, being Malaysian. Let me tell you guys, being Malaysian is literally, and I know, I don't want to say, I don't want to be like biased because we have people from other countries in this chat, in this,
Yeah.
but being Malaysian is literally the best thing that can happen to you, because like we leave the country to work in real jobs, right? So like we leave as professionals and we go into spaces where we work as professionals. So we have built a reputation. So don't mess up this reputation for us, guys. But if you choose to migrate or you're choosing to leave or study overseas, understand that Malaysians have already built a reputation for ourselves where we are kind, we are compassionate, we are diverse, we are extremely good at what we do, and we're really Ms. Hannes, I think your internet is not doing so great. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about that we had a conversation about was about the Black Lives Movement.
Yeah. A little bit on that. A little bit on George Floyd, Miss Shikara.
Yeah, so anyone can chime in when we want, but basically, I was having a conversation yesterday with my dad, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, why are people so like obsessed with this movement, and like why are we not looking into our own countries?" And like there's so many discriminations happening all around the world. I think it's really important to honor the Black Lives Movement because it's like a domino effect, right? These guys, first of all, have been fighting for 400 years. I mean, racism in other countries have been significantly less. So and why this movement is so significant and so important and why is it effective is because the African American community or the African community in general has managed to rise up in terms of the figures that are available, right? You have Michael Jordan, you have Oprah, you have Beyonce, you have Barack Obama, you have Nelson Mandela. You have people who have already risen in their field to become the best, the top at what they do. So when you stand up for something, you have a platform and you have a powerful platform. And and they've worked really hard to get to where they are. So I think when we connect that so first of all, I think all of us should be promoting empowerment for any type of minority group anywhere in the world. And when we talk about Malaysia and specifically, I think it's really important to understand that our time will come. There will come a time for us as young people, especially for you guys, because me and Miss Hannes are a little bit older.
A lot older.
Age.
Never tell them how old we are.
So I think the most important thing to understand as you guys grow up in this Malaysia is that our time is going to come where we're going to have to stand up against racism in our own aspects and ways. So the best thing to do right now is to actually absorb and learn as much as you can from the Black Lives Matter movement, because it is exactly what this lesson is about. What Ms. Hannes is teaching you guys in this lesson and in this class is how to give you guys the tools to survive in a really diverse world, and in a world where it's unfair and unjust. You're always going to be faced with some kind of unjust or diversity as you guys get older, as you guys work through adult life. And it's really important to have these tools. So I hope that you guys, that's the biggest takeaway from this lesson, is you have to always be open-minded and don't get stuck in that social media bubble, because even today I made a comment on social media and people were so quick to attack me. And I had to really step back and realize that don't get lost in the fluff, right? So always stand in your truth and always stand in a place where you're willing to understand and be empathetic, because at the end of the day, that's always going to win, So I hope that that's something that you guys can take from this lesson at the end of the day.
Nicely said. Nicely said. I would say I want to ask you. The last part would be me asking you about your advice to the students, but you have already stated, put it nicely on point. So let's give a round of applause to Miss Shikara Shahrin, people, for spending an hour with us. We thank Miss Shikara for her time, spending 1 hour talking about intercultural transition. With that, Miss Shikara, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you for intercultural communication. Can we thank Miss Shikara, people, for her time? Yeah.
And please feel free, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me. I can give you, Miss Hannes will give you my contacts.
Yeah.
There's always going to be questions, and if you didn't feel comfortable asking, you can always ask Miss Hannes and she can pass it to me. So.
Okay. No problem. I will pass it on to them. With that, Miss Shikara, you may leave the meeting. I'm gonna have a quick session, a summary of the lecture today with the students. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Shikara. It has been a wonderful time spending time.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, guys, y'all better respect Miss Hannes, because she's the original OG out here, man. She worked hard to get to where she is, and y'all paying a lot of classes. Sujay, I see you. Yeah, you I'm telling you. But anyways, yeah. So yes, yeah. Sujay's coming up. But for reals, y'all better respect Miss Hannes, because she has a lot of knowledge to give. For real. For real.
No lah. Okay lah. Okay, thank you very much, Miss Shikara. We say goodbye, Miss Shikara. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. See you.
Okay, stay on for a little bit, people. Okay. All right. With that, it's an hour already. Okay, so
respect, Miss.
Yes. Who's that? Am I frozen? No.
Yeah. It was.
Was not anymore.
No.
Okay.
Yes, Miss.
So,
Good.
so I hope you find the that was an introduction of I would like to that is why I invited Ms. Shikara to have a broader aspect of how you are going to look about the topic of intercultural transition, because it's 11:10 already, and because we have so many questions, and Ms. Shikara has been an interactive speaker. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna give a quick summary lecture for every tutorial group next week. Okay, for next week. So on intercultural transition, because I only have 10 minutes left, 20 minutes left with you guys up to 11:30, and that's not enough for me to spend time with you and talk about intercultural transition. So intercultural transition, mind you, people, that's Ms. Shikara. So when we talk about people, an individual moving to various countries, it's either voluntarily, okay, voluntarily or involuntarily, whereby you are being forced to move to another country, and because you have to run from your issues with the government, politics and things like that. But in case of for example, Ms. Shikara, she moved because of her dad's position requires to move around the world, to see, you know, to because her dad is working in an oil and gas company. That's why she moves a lot. And I hope you guys learn quite a lot with Ms. Shikara for today. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna next week, next Monday and Thursday, I'm having class Monday with tutorial group 1, tutorial group 2, 3, and 4. I'm having classes with you, tutorial class on Thursday. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna have a summary lecture then next week with y'all, with slides as well on intercultural transition. So for today, I would leave it as it is about Ms. Shikara talking about her experience. Any questions in regards to the sharing of our speaker today, people? Is it great?
Very good.
Very good. We should do it. I hope that I can invite a couple of people in as well according to our topics. As Ms. Shikara mentioned, always, you know, the racism issue is such a sensitive issue when you grow up. Might it be you not moving around the world, or you being stagnant, or not moving, you're just living in your country. We should always respect people's, you know, people's effort, people's struggle from different cultural groups, and always be sensitive. And of course, again, relating to the words that we choose in communicating with people. That's really important. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for coming in. For coming in to our session for today, our mass lecture on intercultural transition. But I'm gonna do an extra session with you, a summary lecture on this particular topic with each of the tutorial groups, okay, on next Monday and Thursday as well. Oh, next Monday is Agung's birthday, is it? Oh my god, I forgot. Then I have to reschedule for tutorial group 1. Oh, I don't like rescheduling, people. So hopefully it's a public holiday. I'll check back and let you guys know. But for tutorial group 2, 3, and 4, we are still on for next Thursday. So please attend our tutorial lessons for week 9 next week. Okay, so for tutorial group 1, I'll check back with you, and if we need to reschedule, we will reschedule. Okay, so give me a second while I take your attendance. Can you give me a second, people? Okay, we have C, Abeline, Amanda. Okay, Abeline, can you guys type your name in the chat box? Abeline, Oscar, Charmaine, Kohia, Sophia, Medina, Fei Young, Joey, Sujay, Noel, Kendry, Wei, Kent, Nurin, Shintian, Akil, Q, Paloma, Linnell, Spin, Ayman, Wan Shuan, okay, Joita, Rui, and Anchi, Bagos, Zerchi, Chansha, Chanjun, David, Emily, Huying, Joshua, okay, Corwin, Vanessa, Kinley, Sven Lin, Mooning, Dennis, Caitlin, Meng Hui, Erdina, Damia, Jasmine, Hugh, Amira, Pravin, Hazel, Sashmita, C, Pei. Okay, I get most of you guys already. Okay, so I would like, okay, Meng Sam, sorry. Okay, any questions in regards to today's session, people? Yongzan, Meow. Any questions? Cindy, Jocelyn. Okay, I got you, everybody already. Don't worry, okay? I'm browsing through the participant and I have got everybody's name in my list of attendance. Okay, any questions in regards to the session for today, people? Any questions? Okay, any questions? No? Everything good? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, if you have questions again, please ask me throughout time. Remind me to answer you. I'm so sorry if I have a delay in reply to your questions. Other than that, what more? Try to gather your team members for your final piece. Okay, if you have issues in grouping or whatsoever forth, please let me know. I prefer for everybody to be together. You know, whenever you gather your teammates, you should be in the same tutorial group. Okay, so that it will be easier for me to have to see where you are, okay, and not to mix up people in different tutorial sections. But in case you have issues in finding teammates from the same tutorial group or the same section, okay, then I will you let me know and I will permit you together with other tutorial group members. Okay, but you have to remind me that you are a combination of tutorial, for example, tutorial group 1 and tutorial group 2 and things like that. So you have to let me know earlier, and you have to let me know and constantly remind me that you, for your final work, for your final piece, you combine yourself with a different tutorial group. Okay, so with that, if we have no questions, thank you so much. I have given instructions for the final piece in the video earlier this semester, Abeline, and there is a link in the module information. But in case that's not clear, I'm going to remind you again how we are going to do about the final piece next week during your tutorial session. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, you can start now. You can start gathering team members now. Yep. Any questions? Other questions, people? Other questions? Other questions?
Miss Mengsam has question. So we have to choose. It's better to choose our own tutorial members.
Correct. Sorry. Oh, you can choose your own. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, if it's hard, okay, to find team members, okay, then I will do it like the unknown culture report. How would you guys prefer it? You know, I give out the names and you pair up with the people around you. How would you guys like it? I don't know. You find your group already, Chi? Okay. I will check back with you guys on the grouping for final piece.
Miss.
Yeah, sorry.
So members can only be from our tutorial group, lah.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So but in case if that's a pretty huge mess, I'm gonna sort it out with your respective tutorial groups next week during our tutorial session. Okay, so we're going to spend a little bit more time about our doing the summary lecture tutorial week 9 and sorting you out for your final piecework. Okay, so if you have any issues, then we'll sort it out then. With that, any questions, people? Any questions? Okay, just to let you know, I don't know whether this is a good news or whatsoever for. As you can see, the Skype, I have a DR in front of my name already. So I've graduated my PhD last April. Yeah, last April on the date. So yeah, I have a PhD already, but no worries because I love you guys. You can still call me Miss Hannes. Okay, so okay, Cindy. Okay, you let me know soon. Okay, with that, if you have no questions, thank you very much, people, for staying in 1 hour and 22 minutes. Thank you very much, people, for everything. I will be seeing you for our tutorial session for week 9 next week. Okay, thank you very much. Stay safe, please stay safe, and yeah, stay safe, people. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, people. Thank you, amazing people. Stay safe. Stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, Shamila. Thank you, Shahan. Bye. Wantia, Shahan, Amanda, C, Amira, Anchi, Kent. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Mooning. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Farah. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Mengsam. Bye, everybody. Bye, Oscar. Bye, Shashmita, Farah, Yongzan. Bye, everybody. Stay safe. Bye, Emily. Bye, Hugh. Bye, Oscar.